Welcome to part 2 of our deep dive on I Know Who Killed Me, the Dakota Cut. In this episode, we deep dive into the director, Chris Sivetson, the script issues, production issues, Lindsay Lohan's career, horror history of discussion on Giallo films, and erotic thrillers, as well as my favourite topic, David Lynch films. We don't have any voice memos in this week's episode, so I did want to shout out a number of other podcasts I listened to before we covered this film, including the Osterion, who cover this period in pop culture history with wonderful sensitivity and discuss the links between Lohan and Britney Spears, our pals at Fatal Attractions Pod, who go into a brilliant discussion on the erotic thriller elements of the film, as well as Werewolf Ambulance, The Flophouse, and Why Is This a Thing, who all cover the film and gave me great inspiration for some of the topics we covered. Stick it out until the end and hear our top 3 Lindsay Lohan films. Thank you as always for listening. We hope you enjoy, and remember, when in doubt, just sew the dead finger back on. What's the worst that would happen? One knows where they are, and the film ends.
Mm-hmm. And just like that.
Except, do you guys know about the original ending?
No, I wanted to ask you about this. I've been waiting for so long for this moment to ask you about this.
The original ending is on the DVD, but the original ending is just more important to the context of the film, and so we'll now give you both a lot of context. So, that is how the film ends, and then there's some nice music. The original cut that was shown to test audiences has a scene after that where we flash to Aubrey back in blue at her desk typing on the computer, and it was all Aubrey's story that she was telling people at the start of the film. So the whole thing was made up, and it was all about her wish fulfillment, about feeling like she needed to be 2 different people.
Yeah, that's lame.
Very, very lame, which is why they very understandably took it out. But what they didn't do was re-edit any of the rest of the film, which is why it's so confusing about who the fuck is Aubrey, because the whole film, Aubrey has this weird kind of double edge where you're like, is Aubrey Dakota?
Yeah.
Or is Aubrey just a psychopath who is like hot and cold all the time? When you watch it knowing that it's all a figment of Aubrey's imagination, that makes sense because she's playing and she's learning who she is. But if you're going to change the ending of your film, you maybe want to give the rest of the film just a quick view, like a little quick cut. Just
a sense check. Just
well,
does this still make sense? No.
Is this a good point to flash back to her story that she was reading to her class in high school / college?
Yeah.
Where she said, this story was about, quote, a girl who knew a trick to make bad things happen to another girl who was a hitchhiker in her story. Mm-hmm. And it says about this other girl who was a hitchhiker, she always felt like half a person with half a soul. Mm-hmm. So it very much sets up, this is all going to be a story.
Yeah.
But then that ends up being a red herring. But you're saying it wasn't going to be a red herring?
Yeah, it wasn't going to be a red herring. Originally, at the end of the film, there's just meant to be this scene of Aubrey at her desk, smoking a little cigarette like Dakota did, typing it up, and all smug as she writes the last line and she takes the drag and she smiles.
Oh, right.
It's a really shit scene as well.
Not a fan.
No, that sounds rubbish.
But however, that would have made more sense.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense, and hence been shitter, because
well, like, I stand by the taking it out of the film. It's 100% definitely the right choice to take it out of the film, but like just needed to maybe trim down a couple other scenes there. Just a couple quick edits.
Well, those early scenes before she gets kidnapped that I thought were particularly rubbish. The sense I got from all of them was that they didn't quite have enough footage.
Yes. Well, so
there's long scenes where they don't edit between like view and counter view, like typical movie conversation editing, where it's like a master shot and then a close up of one face and the other face and so on. Everything's in a master shot.
Yeah.
There's no edits.
No reactions.
No reactions. People say their lines one by one, and then there's a pause, and then the scene fades to black, and it's like they're just trying to stretch the scene out as long as possible without any of the additional footage they would need to make it work, or any of the edits.
I wonder if that has something to do with probably something we're going to touch upon more with Lindsay Lohan herself, but the production was a bit rocky from the beginning. She was actually hospitalized in the first week of production, and then she had appendicitis, and then it was infected. So I feel like alongside that, and I know we're going to touch a little bit about her stint in rehab at the same time, but I wonder if because of all of that, they just tried to be more efficient.
Well, so I wondered, this is why I was desperately trying to find a copy of the original script, because there are so many plot issues, and obviously knowing the alternate ending, that does fill in some of the holes of Aubrey's characterisation, but for me, and I know we've joked about it, the writing of these detectives is so shoddy and so awkward and doesn't seem to fit. The film has gone for like a Lynchian, Giallo, horror-y, thrillery vibe. The detectives feel like they're out of CSI, but like the world's worst CSI. And I wondered, and this is completely just me making it up, that because of all of these issues on the set with Lohan not being available, if they started writing in these detective scenes at the time because they realised they weren't going to have enough. And is that potentially why those scenes in particular feel so jarring, and the dialogue in those scenes is so terrible because they were needed to fill in gaps?
Maybe.
That was, and so, like you said, she had loads of problems. So she was hospitalised. She had a few different various illnesses. And then midway through, she went into rehab. So she was going to rehab at night and living at the rehab, but then just leaving every day to come and film this. But half the time, because as we see in the film, a lot of it's set at night, she was going back to the rehab in the day to sleep and leaving to do these kind of spooky, eerie scenes at night.
Wow.
So I feel like they were having to film so much of it around her that, again, these really long, uncomfortable, unnecessary scenes, like when we hear the autopsy of the first girl, where they just like, we have all these people, we've paid for these sets, we paid for these equipment, should we just start filming shit like this? And at least we have it as B-roll. And then they had tons of paparazzi issues. I didn't spot any of them. I don't know if either of you did, but apparently in various scenes you can actually see paparazzi in the background.
Apparently so.
I didn't spot any.
I didn't
think, I'm not a very observant person, so I would be looking for it now, but I think that they weren't obvious.
No, I mean, as long as they were wearing blue, you wouldn't have fucking noticed.
No, precisely.
I would imagine the scene after the football game where she ends up getting kidnapped that's a big crowd scene out on the street.
Yeah.
That's where I would look for paparazzi in the background.
Yeah, and I wondered as well, like the scene where she's at the bus stop is quite like, where the guy is behind her and following her. That's quite an open scene. If that was filmed in a real location, you can imagine someone like creeping up, take photos. But again, probably just added to the weird eeriness of the scene.
I can imagine they would have driven out to some really desolate location on the city outskirts in order to get away from the paparazzi and just shoot it there in a hurry.
I mean, I'm sure you can find how much it would have cost, but I'd imagine, because she had already, hang on, let me find it. I believe she'd already had one DUI before filming it. So I believe, like, the cost of a picture of Lindsay Lohan at that time, you're looking at millions. So, like,
that's crazy.
Those people would have driven anywhere.
Interestingly, as well, in terms of problems with her filming, apparently some days she showed up late or didn't show up at all. So when they were filming the climax, the director actually used a body double and then digitally replaced her face. Which, I'm not being funny, I'm not sure if that's true, because I don't know whether, like, I mean, people do that nowadays and you can tell.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit dubious about that one.
I wasn't sure about that one either, but as well, because there was a lot of problem at this time with people selling fake set reports to TMZ and Perez Hilton and things like that. And so you have to take everything with celebrity culture, especially in 2007, with a grain of salt. But wouldn't surprise me if it was true either, because like I said, that scene where she chops his hand off, it's really difficult to follow. So maybe they were using a body double.
Right, yeah.
And that's why the shots are really hard to follow. They can't show her face or give you a wider shot.
Yeah, because they've basically got like a handful of Lindsay Lohan stuff and they're like, we need to bulk this out.
Yeah.
So let's shoot things. But then you're always going to, even the best people are always going to struggle to get that looking or feeling more than anything.
I had that feeling with some of the gore shots, like not just the hand getting chopped off, but the torture scenes where you don't need to see, or they don't show you Lindsay Lohan's face. They just linger on the flesh coming away from the bone on the hand or whatever. I was like, did they mean, when they started to make this movie, did they mean to make it so gory? Or did they have a lot of cool gore effect shots where they were like, a second or two, and then when they came to actually make the movie, they didn't have enough footage because of all the problems, and they were like, well, this is a really cool shot. Well, I'm really proud of this physical effect, this prosthetic. Yeah, let's just have the camera linger on it for like 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Really good point.
Absolutely agree. I mean, so that's kind of most of the issues with the plot, which I feel like as well we've covered a lot of the plot issues while we've gone through the plot.
I think that mainly because that's the biggest thing for us, right? Like, we love so much about like its stylistic choices, and like although it's in a lot of places it's so bad it's good, I think the hang-ups are mainly with the plot on this one in terms of the script. So
I mean, I'll go into the director first, whose name I've forgotten. One of you two is better prepared than me. What's the director?
Chris Sivetson. I'm not
Chris
sure if that's
Sivetson.
I can't. Why can't I pronounce his name? It's spelled quickly in front of me. Sivetson.
For me, I looked into his career, and he very much is in the horror element. He's a horror director. I firstly wondered if this film had been in the hands of a different, more well-regarded artist, would it have been respected as more of an art house film? You know, think about, this seems like the kind of film that someone like Ari Aster could make, but 100 times better.
I would say it feels at some points like it's reaching towards trying to be something like a late period Brian De Palma, like something like The Towel, that kind of thing.
And along with David Lynch, like we said, he there's so much Lynch stuff in it. There's so much Blue Velvet stuff in it. He has, in almost every interview he's ever given, said that Blue Velvet and Suspiria were his main influences for these films. And I did go back and watch both of them, and you can see it. And I will say, got some not actually that much hate. I found some friends who also don't like Blue Velvet, but having rewatched it, I've taken back my half a star rating and now give it 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Once I watched it the second time and knew what I was expecting, I still don't like it. I still hate the acting. But knowing what I was going in for and seeing what they were doing, I found it a lot easier to watch on a second viewing. So obviously people know I'm not the biggest of Lynch fans, so I rewatched Blue Velvet because it's such an inspiration for this, and I also watched Wild at Heart, which I felt about Wild of Heart the way I felt about Blue Velvet the first time I watched it.
Don't give up until you've seen Mulholland Drive.
I am going. Mulholland Drive is now the only one I'm going to watch. I might try Twin Peaks the show at some point, but film-wise, the only other Lynch film I will watch is Mulholland Drive, just because I do really want to watch that.
Okay.
But Lynch was a big-ass inspiration for this film.
You don't say.
Andrew, go ahead and tell us, as our Lynch resident expert today.
Well, unlike you, I do love David Lynch. So there's a few points where the influences really came to the fore, and I'll leave it to listeners to decide whether these are like legitimate homages or drawing inspiration or just massively ripping him off on a very superficial level.
Even some of the scenes, I was like, mate, you stopped homaging, you're just outright copying.
We've already touched upon stuff like the scene where at the school where they all find out that their classmate's dead and so on. There are owls hooting throughout, and a big shot of an owl coming towards the camera, and an owl stenciled on the bus stop. The music cues are often quite dreamy and bluesy, and at other points weirdly comedic. That felt very Twin Peaks to me. there are a couple of Lynch alumni or future Lynch alumni in the picture. We've mentioned Bonnie Aarons is the character who plays the strip club owner, Fat Tina. Quite amusingly, because her name is Aarons, she is the first person who comes up in the alphabetical credits. So you've just seen these people crawl out of the grave, it fades to black, and it just says cast, alphabetical order, Fat Tina.
Which I don't think is ever said in the film either. So
it's
you're like,
not.
hold on, who the hell is Fat Tina?
I assumed it was like someone in her class at college who was like unfortunately nicknamed. But no.
I assumed it was the slightly overweight stripper.
Maybe. But no, it isn't. It's the very skeletal strip club owner. As well as Bonnie Aarons, there's Julia Ormond, who plays the mum. She's also in Inland Empire, which I do not recommend you see as your next Lynch film because it's 3 hours long and shot in very grainy digital for much of it. And there's a bit of a, I mean, it's one for the big Lynch fans rather than something to jump into, I'd say. But yeah, Julia Ormond, the mum, is in Inland Empire, so she's used to the kind of juxtaposition of like darkness and horror with light comedy and that kind of deliberate clashing of tones. So when she's listening to someone who may or may not be her daughter have sex upstairs with a boyfriend, she's furiously scrubbing the kitchen with a kind of electro beat comedic tune almost playing over the top. That felt very Lynchian to me.
Right.
In the movie of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, blue roses are very significant.
Okay.
The FBI team who are tasked with investigating like supernatural offbeat mysteries are they call them blue rose cases, and they get assigned to one by going and standing, if I recall correctly, going and standing by the runway of an airfield and having a woman come out from the hangar dressed all in red with blue hair and with a blue rose pinned to her lapel, and she does a funny dance. And then they're like, we've been given another. I think there's a scene where the guy the junior FBI agent gets asked, "Did you notice anything about what she's wearing?" A blue rose. That's right. This is a blue rose case.
Oh my God.
Which it's like, it doesn't really have a very deep meaning in the movie. Just like blue roses symbolize wacky, like ethereal, supernatural shit is going down. That I think was like a direct. They were just like, "Oh, that seems really cool for reasons I don't particularly understand. Let's have a shit ton of blue roses in our
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but the high school setting and the mixture of like teen suburban life with like weird darkness and the musical clues, which are sometimes like really poppy and sometimes deep and bluesy and woozy. All of that stuff is very Lynchian, but to be honest, kind of on a superficial level. So I enjoyed that, but I don't think he got like the deep spiritual or philosophical points.
It's kind of like the fast fashion version of of the film where they look at the runway and rather than care about the influences or what it represents, they've kind of gone, that silhouette looks cute, let's just make like a really quick and easy copy that has no sort of semblance of what it once was, but we just thought it looked cute.
The other thing I'll say is in films like Mulholland Drive especially, and in Twin Peaks, there's a lot of like meta-referential leveraging of the history of Hollywood or the history of American TV. Going back to the cinema, I've now looked up One Girl's Confession with its tagline, "I confess I'm the kind of girl every man wants but shouldn't marry." That is a real film from 1953. So it's pretty obscure from what I can see. It's barely reviewed on like any of the movie websites I go on. It's got like a handful of reviews from people who have seen it. I don't think anyone in it is particularly famous. I don't think the director is well known, but they probably picked it out because the girl on the poster looks like Lindsay Lohan, and it's got such a Lynchian title. Dropping that kind of movie poster in, is the kind of thing Lynch would do. In Mulholland Drive, there's a poster for Gilda, the Rita Hayworth movie, and the poster for that says, "There never was a girl like Gilda." We might need to record that because I need to go back and double check it. No, I got it right.
Good work.
Yeah, in Mulholland Drive, there's a poster for the movie Gilda with Rita Hayworth, and the tagline, which the camera lingers on, says, "There never was a girl like Gilda." Which like plays deep into the themes of the movie, with, like whether people are real or not, and putting on personas and stuff like that. So having a classic Hollywood poster and lingering on the tagline, again, on a superficial level, very Lynchian. On a deeper level, I don't think there's too much going on, to be honest. But I enjoyed it.
I rewatched Suspiria, and again, I thought I liked Suspiria, and I've seen both of them. When I looked at my letterbox, I'd rated the first one really low, which was not. I was like, "What have I done?"
The first time I saw Suspiria, it was the first Argento movie I'd ever seen, the first Giallo I'd ever seen, and I was like, I kind of liked the stylistic aspects near the beginning, but then I rapidly kind of it lost me.
Yes,
I went back to it again later, and like now I really love it. But
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I saw it at the Prince Charles for Halloween one year, and I just wasn't sure about it. Then I watched a few months later the remake and really enjoyed the remake. Going back to the original with more knowledge of what I was getting of Giallo, I think enjoyed it so much more. And it's really funny because it is all blue and red, and that's where he got the blue and red influence from. It's a really big thing in Giallo films, but it's just done so much like much more subtle. Like every scene in Suspiria is elements of blue and red, but it's not like here's blue and this thing's blue because and here's some blue.
The way that Sivetson, I'm never going to be able to pronounce his name. I don't know why, but I'm like, basically the way that he does it in this is as if he's the way that it's color graded, as opposed to using it in a practical way and then like elevating that in the edit. It genuinely feels like put some blue there, some blue there, some blue there, and then when we get to the color grading, basically make everything else murkier and then make the color so bold. And don't get me wrong, like it does work in other circumstances, but here I just think it makes it look a little bit cheap.
Also, it works. It's everything in moderation. I know it's a really hated kind of photography technique where you do that black and white with one colour kind of isolated. I love it. I'm that kind of person. I loved when Sin City did it, for example. But
Sin City does it a lot better than it. Here it looks like a really cheap, effect you would get on your phone in 2007.
But it's not even that it looks cheap, it's the overuse of it. Like, they use it at the football game. What the fuck is it symbolising at the football game? Just watching football. There's no symbolism in that scene. Like, if you're going to use it, absolutely, but have it mean something. Like, it meant nothing.
I do think those early scenes feel like they make bad artistic choices. Like, the first 20 minutes is rough going.
It feels like a film that was written by an 18-year-old student as her first draft of a creative writing project, which, so they succeeded.
Yes, which would make sense to the comedy original ending.
But yes, so back to our director. So I kind of wondered about that. Before this, he had made a film called All Cheerleaders Die. I thought I had found it. What I had found instead is he's gone back and remade that film. Modern, and it is actually really solid. It still has a real cheap element to it, but it looks a lot more slick than this, and it really reminded me of Jennifer's Body in tone. I know I found it really fun. It has like loads of hot teen girl tropes, but the story actually does make sense and is fluid, and it has a better tone of the horror and comedy than I Know Who Killed Me did. And like one of my things with I Know Who Killed Me was when you listen to him talking, he's like, I wanted it to be a modern day Giallo, I wanted it to be Lynchian, but I also wanted it to be this really clever thriller, but then it was marketed as like a slasher film, and then it was marketed as a murder mystery, and it's like, pick a lane. Like, what genre do you want to do? And just commit to that genre.
I'm interested in the fact that he made this film, All Cheerleaders Must Die. Because he shot the original. I've not seen this film, so maybe you can tell me what you think of it. But he shot the original and the remake, both co-directed with Lucky McKee. And Lucky McKee is a figure who's really big, really well thought of on the kind of cult horror scene. He made May in 2002, which is like a really awesome kind of riff on Frankenstein, and it's got like a female lead. It's really interesting. More recently, he shot The Woman from 2011, which had really great reviews, and I know is really well thought of. So I'm interested in the fact that he teamed up with this guy who has like a really significant cult following, not once but twice, to make two different versions of All Cheerleaders Die. But somehow I've heard of Lucky McKee. Like, he's quite buzzy on the horror scene. I hadn't heard of Chris Sivetson.
It's hard to say, right?
Excuse, I keep wanting to say Silverson.
Yeah, that would be easier. Can you change your name, please, Chris? Thank you.
I thought the All Cheerleaders Die really worked. I'm not the biggest B-movie horror fan. I really like horror films, but because I live on my own, I'm a massive wimp now. So I don't like watching horror films on my own. So I've really like fallen away from the horror film scene because I just don't get the opportunity to watch them. But I thought All Cheerleaders Die was great. It's a little bit witchy and it's a little bit zombie, which makes sense while you're watching it. And the tone was perfect. Like, it's not the best film I've ever seen, but it was a fun watch. It made sense. The gore was great. And like, the thing it did remind me of the most, because of the implications of what happens to the cheerleaders and the way in which people are killed, is so like Jennifer's Body, that it's just more of a global Jennifer's Body and a little bit more feminist, actually. And like, the cheerleaders are still filmed in like such male gaze, and it's all about wearing short skirts and things like that, but the women are the heroes of the film and the guys are the dickheads of the film. And you could see the difference, which is why I'm really annoyed I couldn't find the original, because when I was trying to figure out what drew Lindsay Lohan to this film, the only thing I could think of was All Cheerleaders Die. She must have somehow seen that film or been sent that film and liked something within it. There has to have been something in that.
Or did they not just get sent scripts if they think, say, for example, the director's like, oh, I can see this person in, and then they send it to their agent?
Absolutely.
I feel like, from what I've heard in the very, very, very minimal available interviews for promotion for Lindsay Lohan, which we'll touch on in a bit, that she kind of just was like, this is a really good opportunity for someone like me. I assume she was referencing the fact that she used to be a Disney star, etc., and she wanted to do something more adult. And also, I know, Claire, you saw an article, I think it was on The Guardian recently, talking about the film and like giving it a bit more of a defense, and basically just talking about how it's very reminiscent of this duality of Lindsay Lohan herself.
Absolutely.
Of this, like the sort of the Disney side, and then the side that kind of lets loose, and actually it's really smart. So I wonder whether she just read the script and really liked it.
Yeah, it seems like a brave step to pick a first-time scriptwriter and a second-time director.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is, from what you're saying about Chris's other film, is that it clearly seems to me then that the writer Jeff Hammond of I Know You Killed Me seems to be the common denominator in terms of why perhaps this didn't work as well, considering as well this is his only writing credit.
But yeah, so I mean, Chris as well, he likes it. Where am I? So he has said that there is a 3.5 hour director's cut of this film.
Yeah. Which read them up.
I want it.
I want it.
Release your cut.
Yeah.
Release the Sivetson cut. Hashtag release the Sivetson cut, definitely.
Release the cut. The old people get cut.
Release the old people get cut. Sometimes people just get cut.
Which also...
On the subject of Giallo, I think the point at which I decided I really loved this movie was the point at which I realized it was trying to be a Giallo.
Right, yeah.
Which is, I really noticed that around the halfway mark where she gets her robotic hand. Because the color had already kind of indicated that, because in like Argento and especially like Mario Bava, they loved to douse everything in like symbolic colors or block colors, color block the set design and so on. But one of the other common tropes, not in every Giallo but in many of them, was that they would introduce a little bit of sci-fi. So if you see something like Argento's Four Flies on Grey Velvet, there's a special machine they use to analyze someone's retina or their pupil in the eye of a corpse, because as all scientists know, the eye retains an image of the murderer, and they can extract the image and use this special machine to get the image out of the dead body's eye in order to identify the murderer.
That's brilliant.
Which is insane. In Argento's Cat and Nine Tails, the whole plot hinges upon the fact that people who have a double Y chromosome are highly intelligent murderers. And there's a murder mystery based around a lab where they analyze people's genomes, and they spend much of the film trying to work out who has a double Y chromosome because they must be the killer.
I love it.
So it's pretty common for these pulpy 1970s Italian gialli to have that kind of sci-fi edge, and Lindsay Lohan's robotic arm, or like pneumatic crush grip, and her leg that runs out of battery is exactly the kind of like nonsensical bit of sci-fi fluff that they would add onto these movies to kind of draw people in.
I love that.
The other aspect was it's really common in gialli for there to be some kind of massively important plot point, like sometimes literally that someone has seen the killer that is locked in their memory and they can't get it out. And they spend most of the film being like, I know I saw the killer's face, but I can't picture it. And it's like super frustrating for the audience. But in this as well, I felt that with all the flashbacks and the psychic visions,
twin sense.
Yeah, all the twin sense stuff sounds like the kind of like slightly cod psychological or cod psychic edge they would give these gialli films. So between the twin sense and the color blocking and the bit of misleading sci-fi in a film that's not really sci-fi, all those elements like really came through in the second half, and that's the point where I was like, oh, someone's trying to make like
a modern
American teen movie meets a giallo, and that's what I was fully on board with.
Well, so I wondered if, again, going back to why Lohan chose this film, I wondered if that was a case as well. Like, is she drawn to those kind of films? Is she a big horror fan? Did she like the idea of, like, an homage to those kind of giallos of the past? So as you know, I've deep dived. I've spent a lot of time talking about Lindsay Lohan this month. So I looked into what happened to her before this film happened from a career sense before we do a little bit more about a personal sense. So, got 2004. Mean Girls peak stardom. She films Herbie Fully Loaded. She releases an album at the same time, and it's all Disney all the time, and it makes complete sense. Get that Disney money in, keep your little teen queen crown. 2005, she starts taking a couple of choices. She films Prairie Home Companion, Just My Luck, and Bobby. Now, none of these films did particularly well, but She's filming with Robert Altman and Meryl Streep. She's getting the opportunity to actually be an adult in these films rather than being stuck in the teen role. You know, you've got Emilia Estevez directing. So some of these films are odd films that you wouldn't expect her to do, but when you look at the caliber of people involved in them, makes sense. She's making good choices. And again, 2006, she films Chapter 27, Georgia Rule, and then I Know Who Killed Me. And Chapter 27 is like an indie film with a debut director, but the cast was really, really strong, so you can see why she'd be interested. She's got a small role in it, but it's got a great cast. And then Georgia Rule, directed by Gary Marshall and starring Jane Fonda. So again, total sense. So why in the same year does she choose this film and do this role? Because when this film was released, by that point her Hollywood crown is off. She's been arrested for a DUI, she's all over the paparazzi, she's cited as the problem child, and all her films that she's been releasing are flopping and turning into box office bombs. But when she was filming this, that hadn't, like when she signed up to this, that hadn't quite happened. It happened almost when she was doing this. So at this point, she hadn't lost her opportunity to be insured on things yet, because that's why her film choices after this are really low, because she couldn't get the insurance to be on set anymore. But this one, this is always marked, this is the pinnacle of when you look at Lindsay Lohan's career, this is the one that people point to as the where it completely changes. But when you look at the filming times, she's not quite there yet. It's going to haunt me to my day because of what happened during the making of the film. So she supposedly had the operation that then got infected. There's, you know, people say that isn't the truth. You don't know. She then had a DUI and she went into rehab. She made the film. The director said that she did a great job on set and was really good despite all the stuff that she was going through. The week before the film comes out, she gets another DUI and she's not allowed then to do any press. She can't go on any TV shows. So she's never, since the filming of it, discussed the film. She's never done an interview and explained why she chose it, what drew her to it, apart from a random tweet that someone said in 2013 that said, "Lindsay, please notice me. I've watched I Know Who Killed Me twice this week." And she commented, "That's 2 times too many." And that is the only comment I could find since this film was released that she's ever made. And I listened to some more modern conversations with her, and she never references this film. But she does talk about the fact that everything she's done in her career she thinks is the right choice. And when she's probed on why did you write music about your parents having a volatile and abusive relationship, and why did you go on SNL and joke about the fact that you couldn't get hired and that you had to wear an ankle monitor, and she maintains, well, everyone was going to talk about it anyway and it was all over the papers, so I just felt, well, if they're going to talk about it, I can talk about it too. So I wonder, is that the choice for this film? She's like, people see me as a piece of meat, people see me as they want me to be this beautiful Disney starlet and the queen of Hollywood, but really I'm this like rough and ready girl who likes to drink. So she wanted to do this because it gave her the opportunity to play both and be seen in both ways as one person.
Right, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Maybe, I think, I don't know how the script got into her hand to begin with, but I think that's probably what the appeal that she saw was, that was essentially showing, just not getting her own back, but just she saw it as a comment on as a reflection of her own life and dealing with the press and things like that. Absolutely.
It's funny because they were really building her up to be like the next Julia Roberts and the next Cameron Diaz, like to be a rom-com queen, which I think would have really suited her. I think she's got, even though she can do these kind of weird dark things, I think she's got a real gift for the like wacky comedy kind of side. And I guess she didn't want to do that, or like we said, because of her personal elements, her getting her own back and being like, no, do you know what, I want to do like something really dark and really gritty, which is why I'm so desperately want a copy of the original script, because I want to read it and see how much is it different to the final product, because there must be something in that script
that she saw. And and it'd be interesting to know then, as you guys have mentioned before, how much really changed based on her issues, and did that then it's kind of just like a not a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it kind of like is ebbs and flows between the cause and effect, where she chose this because of the idea or the theme of it, or whatever, representing something that was kind of going on with her, but maybe an extreme version. She then, you know, unintentionally leaned further into that, which then caused issues on set, which then potentially made the film change to be worse. And that then coincided at the same time with her getting, I say worse, her dealing with additional issues. And essentially that all collided into one career fail, essentially. Yeah. So it's not one thing or the other. They're actually very much influenced each other. And it's such a shame that happens that way.
Well, I'll say this. She might not like this film. This is probably now my second favourite Lindsay Lohan.
Yay!
I love that.
But, I mean, we kind of talked about the problems with the plot and the script. We talked about the problems on set. I mean, personally, I thought that also the marketing of it, just goddamn awful. Like, they were trying to sell it to Lindsay Lohan fans and teen fans as this like slasher kind of teen film, and it's very clearly like an homage to Lynchian and Giallo. 17-year-old Lindsay Lohan fans were never going to like this film. And I think, you know, it struggles to be scary, it struggles to be completely erotic, it struggles to be completely redemptive. But it's not Showgirls, it's not Spring Breakers, it's wanting to be an art form and look at exploitation films, but it's never marketed as that kind of film, which is why it's very interesting when you look at some of the initial reviews at the time of release. It was critically panned, apart from horror websites. Specialist horror websites were really supportive of it because they obviously understood the film that they were watching. Even despite bad marketing, whereas a lot of other people, if you expect to get one film and you get something completely different, and it was also a mess, but you know, you're not understanding even the intention by that point.
Yeah, but I wonder as well if it was a bit of a double-edged sword, where if they were to market it as in a genre film, how many people would have turned their nose up and gone, Lindsay Lohan? Yeah, I don't think so.
That's very true. Yeah.
So I can kind of see their issue there, really. The other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the promotion that I found is that they, obviously everyone releases clips of the film alongside the trailer to try and drum up interest. I noticed that they specifically released clips of the stripping scene, so they definitely knew part of their audience and who they were trying to get into the cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. But like on my DVD, there's a copy of the trailer along with the original opening and original closing. The original opening is virtually the original opening. You don't see the strip scene at the start. The original opening is like a voiceover and all the shots of like the lake and stuff. And then I believe it goes straight to Aubrey. But there was also the original trailer for the film, and like that trailer is for a completely different film. That's not the film that I watched. Yeah.
Is it for a horror film or a
It's like a teeny horror film, and it really markets it as like she's being followed, and through the whole movie you're going to be watching her, and so it's all like the scenes of her at the bus stops and like constantly looking around her arm and like hinting that girls have gone missing, and it makes you think that in the film she's going to be abducted, and you're going to be watching it before it happens. Not the film that we got.
That happens in the first 20 minutes, and then the rest of it's madness afterwards.
What kind of trailer would have got you the most excited to see this movie? Because for me, it would probably be her saying, "Do I look like I'm in a fucking coma?" and then breaking someone's arm with her robotic arm.
Oh, absolutely! Just all of the badass Dakota moments, just in some sort of fan can supercut.
Or the woman from The Nun looking straight into the camera and saying, "If your ID says you're 21, you're 21.
Literally. Love it so much.
For me, I would have leaned into the twin thing more and being like, I would have really leaned into the idea of, is this girl insane or is she a twin? And I would have let that be the mystery, which I think is, for the most part, the main mystery of the film.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, the theatrical release poster that they've got on Wikipedia is much less intriguing than the one I saw.
I much prefer the theatrical release poster because that is the DVD opening screen. It's a blue rose and you've got Lindsay Lohan's face as petals on each side of it. And that is the element of the film I cared for. Right, I wanted to know about that mystical, eerie kind of vibe.
The blood drop coming
the blood drop at the end, the blue and the red. Whereas what you get on the DVD, so that was the theatrical release. On the DVD cover, it's her on the stripper pole from the start of the film in the red outfit.
Marketing kind of film.
The DVD menu is the theatrical poster. That's the DVD menu.
So I think we've sort of discussed how we feel about the film and where we think it kind of went wrong. But what we love to do as well, which we briefly touched upon, is look at what other people do think. And obviously, this didn't fare well when it came out. It wasn't screened in advance for critics, I believe. So the film premiered on July 27, 2007. It didn't get a UK theatrical release. This was in the US. To what Entertainment Weekly has called, and I quote, an abysmal $3.5 million. That eventually did gross a total of $7.5 million at the end of the theatrical run in the US. And it did end up grossing $9.7 million worldwide. But, their budget was $12 million. So it didn't even break even. Nowhere near breaking even, but ultimately, it was the reviews that really, really cut deep. The Rotten Tomatoes consensus is a doozy. It is quoted as distasteful, and ludicrously plotted. I Know Who Killed Me is a career nadir for all involved, particularly Lindsay Lohan in a dual role, and that's got 9% for critics versus quite relatively healthy for a bad film, quote, a 26% audience score. So there was a bit of a divide, I think, there between critics and audiences. So Empire Online have named it number 34 in a fan voted 50 worst movies list, and Cinema Score actually, this is audience polling as well, have given the film an F. That was in April 2020. As of April 2020, it's one of only 22 films to get a rating. Like that, only 22 to get an F is. I
have some thoughts. I have some thoughts on movies that get an F Cinema Score. Mm-hmm. So the way a Cinema Score works is they show a movie to an audience and they poll them coming out. But I think the audiences are somewhat self-selecting. So it's people who want to go and see the film based on its marketing and based on what they think it's going to be. And then they review the people coming out to say, did you enjoy it? So a lot of the movies that get an F in its for the Cinema Score are movies where the movie that you get isn't necessarily the movie you'd expect. And the audience gets pissed off because of that. Yeah. And I'd say about half the movies that get an F Cinema Score are genuinely pretty bad, and the other half are like really great movies that are challenging in some way or give you something that you wouldn't expect. So just looking down the list, Bug by William Friedkin, which is an adaptation of a Tracy Letts play about someone who may or may not be paranoid schizophrenic. Really great film. Dr. T and the Women is a Robert Altman film. It's not his best, but it's certainly not one of the worst movies ever made. I Know Who Killed Me, which we've discussed has its problems, but I really liked it. In the Cut, Jane Campion's In the Cut, with Meg Ryan and Mark Ruffalo.
I need to watch this film because that film, of all of these kind of films, has had a real resurgence and reclaim by fans in the last couple of years, and I really, really want to watch that. Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't like it quite as much as some people, but it's a good film for sure. Killing Them Softly by Andrew Dominik with Brad Pitt is, again, not a masterpiece, but it's a really good film. Mother! !
Brilliant film.
I think it's the quintessential F Cinema Score movie.
I'm a big Aronofsky fan, and he worried me with Noah. I actually didn't even bother watching Noah because it looked by the trailer. I was like, that's not the Aronofsky I want. Whereas Black Swan's one of my favourite movies of all time. I loved Mother. I found it really challenging. I saw it in the cinema. I felt claustrophobic and like I could feel it physically. And I thought it was one of the best films I'd ever seen, and I vowed never to watch it again. And then I was dating a guy and I stayed at his parents' house, and they asked if I wanted to watch a movie, and that was the movie they picked, and they'd never seen it, so I had to sit and rewatch it on their TV with him and his dad, and I was like, I don't really want to do this.
I've never seen so many walkouts as when I went to see Mother, but I really liked it.
I do understand the walkouts. It is a very confronting film, but I also stand by the fact that if something makes you that physically kind of, something has a reaction like that, then clearly it's doing its job and it is a good film. Just because your reaction is not a nice reaction doesn't mean it's a bad film. If it's able to make you feel something, then someone's done their job.
Is that why people do downgrade it though? Because from what I understood, they kind of thought it was just too pretentious.
I think I saw a lot of people saying like it was just stupid and it was really like over the top, and like the pretentious is the word as well, but like, I don't find it pretentious.
I know. I think it's a brilliant film.
I didn't find it so pretentious that it put me off. There is some of that in there, but I think it's good enough that
it's clever enough in itself that you're kind of like, I know you're clever, but you're that I think you're, like the fact that I think you're clever matches up to how clever you are. So it works. The issue with pretentiousness is when the person thinks they're clever and the audience goes, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more that they just ate a baby.
Yeah. So I can understand that's a fail. Yeah, those are very controversial, but it's it's the representation of both Christ and Mother Earth, and like they did kill Christ, so
yeah, thematically, symbolically, it makes absolute sense. But I think for some people, it's probably an instant fail on this regard. At some point, you eat a baby.
A lot of people also didn't like the lack of linear narrative, and like I can definitely be like that with some films. I much prefer a linear
narrative.
I love a linear. I love just a classic story, but done well, like Mother, totally down for wild and wacky and completely non-linear.
The last film I'd mention on this list is Steven Soderbergh's remake of Solaris, which again I think is great.
Is that the George Clooney one?
Yeah.
I heard other people talking about that recently, but I've not seen it.
Maybe we need to add these to the worst rated lists for the pod, because there's so many on there that I haven't seen that I'd be really interested. But it's a really interesting point you make, Andrew, about who these people are and the context of that, and that makes so much more sense when you think about what those films are.
Although it's more accessible than the earlier attempts to film it by Tarkovsky, it is nonetheless relatively art house. And I think if people went to see a big sci-fi movie with George Clooney and they weren't forewarned that it was going to be introspective and ask questions about the nature of reality and God and so on, they just thought it was going to be George Clooney on a space station having an adventure, then they probably would come out of the movie saying this was bollocks.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's such a shame, because really you're not rating the film you watched, you're rating the marketing team, but you can't, there's no rating for that.
They did their job, you're in the seat essentially. So just talking a little bit more about the criticism for the film. This film was the most awarded at the 28th Golden Raspberry Awards. It won 8 out of 9 of its 9 nominations, which included Worst Picture. And Lohan also won Worst Actress, as well as Worst On-Screen Couple for both of the characters that she portrayed.
This film broke a Razzie's record for the most nominations of any one film, but that's now been beaten by Jack and Jill, which we'll be covering in a future episode, so I can't wait.
But it did, however, attain a lot more of a successful home reception. It's now almost quadrupled its US box office gross in estimated domestic DVD sales. It's developed a huge cult following, lots of midnight screenings. Basically, it's just got, the love that perhaps it didn't get the first time. It's now being rediscovered by ourselves.
I am 100% going to be desperately campaigning for the Prince Charles to do a midnight screening of it, and we have to do a bit like The Room. Every time someone says cut, you have to do something. I don't know what it is that we'll do, but every time someone in the film says cut,
every new blue thing or every new red thing.
And you have to, because they have the 2 doors into the downstairs screen. So if it's in the downstairs screen, Aubrey side, Dakota side, and also like themed red and blue drinks at the bar, so you get to pick.
Yes,
I'm on this. Let me do it. Let me have it.
I think this was a film that started out wanting to be a cult film, went kind of off the rails and had all kinds of behind the scenes problems and kind of fell apart and then flopped. And then is now ripe to finally achieve what it wanted to achieve, which is to be that kind of cult film.
Which is why Chris Sivetson should indeed release the 3.5 hour cut for me to enjoy.
Sure.
The cut.
The people get cut.
I just want to finish the review section with a really, to the point and rather humorous letterbox review from the user is Eric Dr. G Mister, and the one-line review is, "This movie was so bad it almost killed me, but it didn't count on my will to live." Which is a lovely quote from our local law enforcer when speaking about Aubrey/Dakota, about how she was left on the side of the road and how, why did the killer leave her there? Maybe he didn't like the killing side of things. He thought he could just leave her in the dirt and she'd be done. But the law enforcer very rightly said, well, he just didn't count on her will to live, as if any other murder victim just gives up. Because they don't have a will to live. Which I thought was really funny. He gave it a half star. Which leads me on very nicely to your ratings, guys. I really want to know, at the end of watching this, what are your final thoughts and like what your rating is, and whether you do think it deserves to be on this list or not, which I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
Well, I gave it 3 stars on my social media movie rating platform of choice. Other platforms are available. 3 stars, and I think that's, on a rewatch, and I've just rewatched it for the podcast for the second time. I might even up it slightly, maybe 3.5.
That is exactly the same as how I feel, because I think my issue is that I mostly do mine on enjoyment. I mostly do star ratings on enjoyment, but I do have to take into consideration that there's a lot of mess here, and I can't give it the same sort of ratings that I give other 8 out of 10s for. Like, I can't have it in the same caliber. So I was thinking 3, but now the more we've spoken about it, I'm like, do you know what? I reckon that extra half a star, just because of the amount of fun I had watching and talking about it, compared to some of the other ones that we're going to have to face. I think I've ended up at 3.5, and I do think it deserves to probably be on one of the lower rated sides of cinema. I don't necessarily think it's probably one of the worst, though. I do think there's worse out there.
For me, I'm a bit harsher than you guys. I'm torn between 2.5 and 3 rather than 3 and 3.5. Because obviously I like this film because I've still got the DVD 10 years later. I refuse to get rid of it. But I think my enjoyment of watching the film has very little to do with the actual film that I'm watching. In terms of like the intention of the film and the story of the film, very little of my enjoyment comes from that. My enjoyment is watching Lindsay Lohan, finding the plot holes. So it's really tough to rate it, because am I rating my experience of watching it, or am I rating what I'm actually watching?
I would say always rate the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm torn between 2.5 and 3. Now, my argument being, it goes back to the Lynch thing about does it deserve to be on the worst list of all time. So I've said I'm not a Lynch fan. Having rewatched, so I watched this, I rewatched Blue Velvet, I watched Wild at Heart, and then I rewatched this again. And all 3 films, to my mind, are just wild, nonsensical, thematic ups and downs, and completely like batshit of their own, and like tonal choices that don't make any sense, and overacting galore. And like, I adore Laura Dern, but I've seen her in 2 David Lynch films now, and personally, I feel like he makes her look like a bad actress, because where he goes for that such an intense tone, to me, I'm just like, what are you doing? You're just screaming. And it almost felt like, to me, he was just using like the first take of every shot, which is just totally personal opinion and probably not true at all. I don't think a film that is so clearly influenced by and trying to be a David Lynch film can, in which it, in my opinion, in some ways succeeded, if not, just outright ripping it off. I don't think we can say that David Lynch makes the world's greatest films and is one of the most visionary directors of all time, and then we say this is one of the shittest films ever made, because there are too many similarities.
Right, okay, I get your point. Listen, I'm going to need to start watching some Lynch films, because this guy keeps coming up on my podcast, and I'm like, I don't know what to say about this dude. What is that clip with what is her name? Which is like, I do not know this man. He came up to the room. I wouldn't even know his name. Where to go? Oh my god, she used to be a Disney Channel kid, but I can't remember.
I know who you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like I need to watch something now to have an opinion on this chat. This lad keeps turning up in my.
I'll tell you why you should give this an extra half a star. It's for the opening image of the strip club with a neon sign out of a dancer. And the right hand and the right leg of the neon sign are flickering.
Yeah, they are.
To indicate that they're fading away.
I did like that.
Like, be mad at the attention to detail.
No, and that's it. And I think as well, the other thing I was going to say is, does this deserve to be on the worst list of all time? If this did not have Lindsay Lohan in, no one would bat an eyelid that this film isn't very good. The only reason it is got an F and it's ripped apart as much as it is, it's because you've put a Hollywood star in a low-budget art house film. If this was just a low-budget art house film with a completely different actress in it, people probably would be applauding it, and people probably would be saying, oh my god, look at the homages to Lynch. It's a modern American Giallo. Like, it's flawed and it doesn't quite get there, but the attempt is great, as we've said. But because Lindsay Lohan was there and it's a scattered performance and the editing makes limited sense, it went from being a film that people probably would have said they tried to, oh, it's dog shit, blah, blah, blah.
No, you're right. That makes total sense in terms of what you said about the horror critics really loving it, because essentially, I think you're right. I think the level with which you're comparing, I do it, completely unintentionally. I'm watching something going, this is a Lindsay Lohan film, so I'm comparing it to her other films and the caliber of that. I'm not comparing it to other genre films where, like you say, now I'm thinking about it now going, no, as a genre film, I might even, I'd definitely say at least 3.5 stars because of that. But I think, the connotation of having someone like that in a film like this, you go, that's bad.
Yeah, because you're expecting something like A Quiet Place.
Yes. More value, more production value in that. Not
I think even from the outset, regardless of any of the production problems, like Andrew's mentioned, I think this is always meant to be a low-budget kind of B homage-y cult film. I don't think it ever had an intention of being blockbuster level.
But unfortunately, that's how people saw it. And
3 years after Mean Girls comes out, of course you're going to think that.
No, absolutely. So, as always, we like to sort of touch on a theme that's related to the film that we're discussing. And I know that Claire was really, really eager to tell us more about Lindsay Lohan. So we decided to have a quick discussion about our top 3 Lindsay Lohan films. Now, I don't know. I think Andrew should go first as our guest. I think mine are going to be super, super basic. So you're not interested.
So I'm wondering, for our Team Daisy versus Team Claire, I feel like maybe we shouldn't be allowed to pick the same films. Like maybe we get Andrew to flip a coin and whoever wins gets to pick the first film first.
Okay.
Andrew, go ahead with your ones.
All right. So this was it's only the 5th Lindsay Lohan movie I've seen. Before this, I'd seen 4 and I liked 3 of them, and I didn't like 1. And the one I didn't like was The Canyons. Canyons absolutely sucks ass.
So bad I've maybe blocked it from my memory. Who remembers?
Possibly. You'd be like the figure in a Giallo movie, like desperately trying to remember what the horrific incident was.
I just remember so many scenes of her on a yacht in like a silk nightgown, but I'm like, do I just remember that because that's like the footage from the trailer? I don't know.
Well, that's still the worst Lindsay Lohan movie I've seen. So that's number 5. Number 4, I would say Machete, where she cameos. I would say that's number 4. I know. I'm going to say number 3. I'm going to say The Holiday for her cameo.
Nice.
That is a better movie than I Know Who Killed Me, but I can't put it in second place because
she's barely in it.
She cameos as herself. So let's not count that. The Holiday at number 3. I Know Who Killed Me at number 2.
Hey.
Because it's actually a Lindsay Lohan movie, and I had a really good time. and number 1, I don't think this is a huge surprise, but Mean Girls remains her towering achievement and a lasting memory of what could have been for her career.
Aww.
Though, incidentally, I think that of the 4 plastics, she's actually on the weaker side. I think we remember that film because of Regina George, not because of Katie. She's brilliant in it, though. I adore Katie and I adore her performance in it. But when we all think about it, the reason we all love Mean Girls is Regina George and Rachel McAdams. When you look at Rachel McAdams' career and where it's gone, you can see why.
I would also give a shout out to Amanda Seyfried.
Absolutely. She's had a rockier career. She seems to like
doing that though.
She does 1 good film, 2 terrible films, 1 brilliant film, 2 mediocre films. Like Amanda Seyfried just seems to be happy to take all the things.
She's so good in Mank.
She's happy to be here, you know?
I haven't seen Mank yet, but all I've heard is how good she's in. She's been in some wonderful films and wonderful performances. And then she's been in films like Letters to Juliet, which I've tried to watch 3 times and had to turn off. And I love rom-coms. If I can't get through it.
Do you think Lindsay Lohan ever looks at stuff like Mank and thinks, that could have been me?
Yes. So I listened to an interview with her and John Bishop, and he references like where your career was to, where it is now, and do you look back at the opportunities you had? And that's where she was speaking about she doesn't regret anything. She can't look back and regret things. But she did say it is tough that she, has been in films with Meryl Streep and Jane Fonda and all of these award-winning, high-caliber people, and people like Jamie Lee Curtis who've had decades-long careers. And she's like, does it hurt to see them on Oscar ballots and not my name? Yeah, it sucks. I'd love to have that opportunity, but I'm glad I got to work and learn from them. So I do think she is aware of the people that have passed her by.
It sounds like a good attitude in theory.
It sounded, unfortunately, when it comes from her mouth, when you listen to the interview, it sounds a little bit delusional. And I listened to another podcast, which I found quite upsetting. Her mum has a podcast and she guested on it as a guest. Her mum and a friend have a podcast. And I found it a little bit tough because I think 90% of her personal issues are stemmed from her parents, and you can look into it and it's awful. There's some real nasty stuff that went on during her kind of peak career.
And as a child actress as well.
And in this, like at one point, her mum makes her cry and she makes her mum cry, and it's really like over dependent and emotional. But also her mum is like bigging her up, being like, you're the best actress that's ever lived, you've had the best career, I know one day you're gonna like win an Oscar. And it's like this was only recorded last year, and it's like I would love, as such a fan, would love to hope that at some point she will have a resurgence.
You understand the industry doesn't work like that.
Especially for women. She's not going to get the opportunity that Robert Downey Jr. had. She's just not going to get
Robert Downey Jr. Yeah. Absolutely.
It doesn't happen for women. And that sucks, and I hope that I am proven wrong.
Yes.
But it's not going to.
I hope so.
The Canyons could have been that or should have been that, but the Canyons is just rubbish.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that I would necessarily blame her for that.
Yeah, and that's some of the problems. There's like another film that I'll probably reference in my top 3 that I think if it had come out in a different point in her career could have been an opportunity. And I think even if it came out now, people would be like, oh my God, that's such a cute like role, and she handles it really well. But because of the point in her career that it came out in, it just got dismissed and it got moved from a theatrical release to a TV release. Again, if it came out now and went to a Netflix release, I think that it is actually on Netflix now, but not to like Netflix original fanfare kind of thing. I think she I think if what had happened to her had happened 10 years later, Netflix or something like that could have given her that opportunity, but it's now been too late.
It's just a shame.
Yeah.
On a positive note, let's chat our top 3.
We'll flip a coin and to decide who goes first, and then you'll just take it in turn. We won't do the movies in any particular order, so feel free to say like your third favorite first or whatever it is, and then after everyone has like bagseed their 3, you can put those. You can put your order. 3 in order. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Claire, do you want to say heads or tails?
Tails, please.
It is heads.
Daisy gets to go first.
Okay, so I'm actually going to do mine in order because it makes no sense. My top pick is The Parent Trap.
That was my top pick.
I'm sorry, but it is just whatever your favourite meal is and your favourite dessert. Like when you watch this film, I just feel like so fuzzy inside, and it's just like you're eating your favourite meal, you listen to your favourite music. It's all that kind of feeling that's just pure joy and happiness.
And I do think that even though she's had such a varied career, I do still think that's her best performance. I think the range she shows.
Kid and she does both, and it's just the hijinks and the jokes and the music, and it's just lovely.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go then, and I'm going to take Mean Girls.
Interesting. Okay.
Which, for all the reasons we've said already.
Yeah. Am I then going next?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes.
Okay. My second pick is Freaky Friday, which was my actual second choice.
Nice.
Again, this is just peak me as a teen. I think it's bloody hilarious. I think, again, it's her doing 2 characters, essentially. And she absolutely smashes it. Jamie Lee Curtis is hilarious in it as well. They bounce off each other so well. And that song by the band at the beginning,
Pink Slips,
that is one of the best fake songs in the world.
It's still on my iTunes. I still listen to it.
On YouTube the other day. It's fantastic.
On the subject of fake songs, can I just ask, have either of you seen Josie and the Pussycats?
Love it. No. Have it on DVD. Such a fan.
Love it. Love it. Just whenever anyone says, "Oh, this is the best fake song," I need to be okay. But have you seen Josie and the Pussycats?
Okay. I'll have to make like a watch list of all the films that we mention on here that I haven't seen.
Okay, so I've got my second pick, and I'm taking Labour Pains, which is the film that I was talking about. It came out in I think 2009. It's a really silly rom-com where she's about to get fired, so she lies and says that she's pregnant because you can't fire a pregnant person, and then she has to fake a pregnancy to not lose her job. But she starts a little bit, There is
even if the person hasn't said that they're pregnant.
Well, that's it. And it's American labour laws, so who really knows?
Right.
But so she starts to fall in love with one of the other colleagues, though. So she starts falling in love with him, but has to make up this whole reason why she's pregnant, but then is going to start dating him. And it's just, I think it's one of her best performances. She's really cute in it. And considering it came after, like, I Know Who Killed Me and a couple other, like, flop, she's really, really charming and shows a big kind of range of comedy, but it ended up, they took it off. It didn't get theatrical release. It went on like ABC Family, and it went to like a straight to DVD release here. And I just think if that had come out in the last 5 years as a Netflix original, I think it would have got so much fanfare. But yeah, so that's my one.
I'm interested to check that one out now, actually.
It's by no means like the world's best film, but just as like a really chill, silly rom-com you have on, it's great. Yeah. It's exactly what it says on the tin.
And I do want to see more of her filmography, to be honest. My third my third film, and I've actually managed to keep all of my top 3, which is amazing. This is one I didn't want to let go because it's Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
Nice.
I know that I've mentioned Freaky Friday and Parent Trap, and they were like quintessential to my childhood, but I don't know where this film came from and how it got into my DVD collection, but no one else seemed to know what this film was when I was at school, and I was obsessed. It was just about this girl who played up her backstory of her life because she wanted to be an actress and she wanted more attention and things. She was obsessed with this rock band which was fronted by Adam Garcia, who was like the first guy that I ever fancied as like
Coyote Ugly.
Right? Coyote Ugly. It had Megan Fox in as the school bully. She was looking banging. Like, it was just great. The production design was amazing. It was fun. It was like really lively. And like, I just really want to watch it again now.
Cool. So for me, I'm going to go for Georgia Rule, which is a really odd and complicated film. So she stars a teenager who is sent to live with her grandmother because she's a bit of a problem child, and so she's sent to this really small town in the middle of nowhere, and then she's really precocious. She's meant to be about 18, I believe, but she's really precocious and over the top, and like starts trying to get like all the local town boys to sleep with her, and then starts going after adult men. And it comes out that her stepdad has been sexually abusing her for a number of years. And then the mum comes back to be like, what the hell? And then she starts saying, no, I made it up. And she has a history of lying and a history of appalling behaviour. And the whole thing is did this really happen? Or is she making it up? And the kind of thing of the film is like, is she really this damaged person, or is she really this like narcissistic? And I really like it. I own it. I've watched it numerous times. It's a messy script and it doesn't quite ever really get to the point that it wants to get. But I think as a Lohan performance, I think she's really strong in it. I think it does help that the other actors in it are very strong. It's very unfortunate that this is the film that marked the beginning of the end for her, because this is the one that she stopped showing up for set, and where the director put an ad in a newspaper saying, you are not exhausted, you're out partying every night, you need to turn up for set. And he put
a newspaper saying that.
He put it out to the press, like released it as a press statement, to shame her into going to set. And I don't think any problems with the film are down to that. I think the problem's down to the film where the script is a little bit messy, and it's only at the end that it kind of comes together. But I really love her performance in it, and I think she's really great in it. And I think it's something that was very different. And I think it again showcased things that bigger films didn't give her the opportunity to showcase.
I'm just looking this up now. It's interesting. It's a 2007 movie, the same as I Know Who Killed Me.
Yeah.
So if that's the year in which she's taking a movie where she plays a kind of bifurcated character, like the good girl / bad girl, and also she's taking on this role where she plays someone who has like an abusive childhood and so on.
Yeah.
Maybe this was the year of her taking scripts where she was like, I'm going to do this because I relate.
Yeah, so this one was actually filmed the year before I Know Who Killed Me was filmed. They got released the same year, but she did take Georgia Rule first. But absolutely, she's looking for, because I think, like she said herself, everyone in the press knew all the problems in her childhood and with her family. Everyone in the press knew that she'd started sleeping around and started being drinking all night and passing out. So why not take the roles that represent that? Because clearly people aren't going to believe her as that good girl Katie Heron anymore. Yeah. So take the roles that let you explore those darker sides of yourself. But yeah, so I got my 2, 3, and 4. The only one I wanted that I didn't get was Parent Trap. I was really worried that we were both going to do Parent Trap, Mean Girls, and then only have one that was different.
Well, that's why I specifically didn't choose Mean Girls, because Mean Girls is absolutely in my top 3 and probably would replace. It would probably be Parent Trap, Mean Girls, Freaky Friday.
Yeah,
but Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen is so synonymous with my childhood personally that rather than Mean Girls being like a big phenomenon that I know everybody loves, I thought I'd swap those in.
Yeah, see, I did Parent Trap, Mean Girls, Labour Pains would have been my proper top 3, because whilst Freaky Friday is a better film, I think her performance in Labour Pains is stronger, which is why I put that ahead.
Check that one out, actually.
Georgia Rule, by the way, I was just looking up the director. It's Gary Marshall, who directed Pretty Woman, Princess Diaries 2, Runaway Bride, and Overboard.
It makes so much sense why she would pick that, because what a director to work with. And like I've kind of theorised online that I think the career trajectory Lohan should have had is Anne Hathaway's career trajectory, who I think is...
I remember you kind of doing a bit of investigative work.
Yeah, she transitioned from teen Disney to adult roles very well by picking out indie roles, slightly supporting character roles in indie films, which is what Lohan tried to do but didn't succeed in. And I think working with Gary Marshall was an absolute brilliant career choice. The calibre of people on that film, it just didn't hit for critics, and it didn't hit the box office.
Just seems a little bit of bad luck thrown in with it as well. Obviously her issues too, but if they had been great films, then maybe people would have been a bit more forgiving.
She should totally have been in Ocean's 8 if her career had gone well, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I watched only last week, and fuck me, that's a brilliant film.
Oh, women. Love them.
Women.
Amazing.
Women in suits.
Yes.
Women in suits,
Kate Blanchett.
getting heists done.
Brilliant stuff.
Getting shit done.
Well, talking of getting shit done, I think that's us.
Yeah. I definitely think so. But obviously, we still want to hear all of the listeners' thoughts about today's episode, and obviously, filming question. I know who killed me. Who's seen it? Do you want to give it a go now? Have you been watching along with the pod? And do you think it deserves a place on the bottom 100? So you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at WRatedPod and on Letterboxd at WRated. And Andrew, where can the good listeners of the podcast find you on the interwebs?
People can find me on Twitter at Whitlock and Pope and at my blog, which I co-run with my good friend Genesis Whitlock. Which is, again, whitlockandpope.com. I will be talking mainly about movies, but also a little bit about my cats. And if things are going badly, a little bit about politics as well.
I was going to say, have you got anything to plug at the moment that you want people to check out on the blog, maybe?
Absolutely not. Just check out more of W Rated. That's what I reckon.
Thank you. And Claire, give us a bit of a reminder where we can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at Claire Ellen Hope on Twitter and Instagram. And when this episode releases, I will be doing a full deep dive Lindsay Lohan top 10 to go alongside it for Cine Chat, which is why I knew what my choices were already. And I'm really annoyed because I forgot to talk about any of her music and any of her SNL stuff. So expect more Lohan content from me, because
absolutely.
I lost like a month to this woman and I need to do something with this information.
You make it sound like she roofied you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 2021. I didn't want to be living in 2021, so I just decided I'm just going to go live in like 2004 through to 2007. It was an easier time for me. Not for her, for me.
Disappeared down the Lohan hole.
I did. Oh, God. After this film, I don't think that's a phrase we should be saying.
Oh god, amazing. And you can find me at Daisy Vic Edwards on Twitter and Daisy Victoria Edwards on Instagram and Letterboxd. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much, Andrew, for coming along as our very first special guest.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. It's an absolute pleasure. And we hope everyone listening can join us for the next episode, where again we'll be exploring our next worst rated film with another special guest. So see you then. Thanks for listening.
Bye.